So we have the iPhone 12 Pro, 13 Pro, 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. We'll be running a couple of tests and then see how much battery is remaining on each of the devices. Hey guys, my name is Khaled and welcome back to another video. So the first test we'll be running is the Antutu speed test. So we have the iPhone 12 Pro on the left along with the iPhone 13 Pro, 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max on the right. Now my brother and I will be doing our absolute best to start the test at the same time, but do consider there may be a fraction of error because we're only human, but we'll do it to the best of our ability. So we have started the Antutu test, we'll leave it running, we'll speed ramp it and you can see for yourself which one wins because I'll stop the time on whichever one does the test first. How long do you think it will take for each of the iPhone to complete the test? Why not leave your verdict down in the comment section below. So for now you can see it's pretty much on par. I mean the 12 Pro is keeping up quite nicely in fact, considering the CPU is much older and it has 4 core graphics instead of the 5 cores available on the 13 to the 14 Pro Max. Also, to make sure the test was as fair as possible, I made sure the battery percentage was at 95% for each of the phones and I made sure all the devices were running on iOS 16.3. So you've guessed it, the iPhone 14 Pros do indeed finish quicker. The iPhone 14 Pro slightly beating the Pro Max by a fraction of a second, but do bear in mind this may be down to our error as they run exactly the same chipset, the GPU and the same amount of RAM. iPhone 13 Pro finishes at a time of 9 minutes and 44 seconds, which is around 34 seconds behind the iPhone 14 Pros. And then we have the iPhone 12 Pro, which finishes 12 seconds later than the iPhone 13 Pro. And the results are not what I expected because the iPhone 14 Pro beats the iPhone 14 Pro Max in terms of the CPU and GPU, but the iPhone 14 Pro Max wins overall. I did notice the Pro Max get quite warm behind the camera section on the back. In this test we'll power off each of the devices. We can see the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the last again. Bit weird. Okay, now moving on powering on, so we powered it on at the same time, counted down, and the first phone to turn on is the iPhone 14 Pro, followed by the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and then we have to do a bit of waiting for the 13 Pro, and finally the 12 Pro comes on. Hey, wait a minute, just a quick shameless plug. If you want to see more short form content, more reels, more behind the scenes, then do remember to follow me on Instagram at KhalesTech. For the next test, I'll be launching several different applications such as the App Store, Calendar, Camera, several games, and we'll just see how long each of the phone takes from starting to the main splash screen. Now opening up Genshin Impact on all of the phones, I mean they were pretty much on par. Bear in mind this is just like a load-in video, intro video, so you can't really determine which phone is quicker, but when you move on to actual gameplay you do notice that the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max does win by quite a bit, especially with the ProMotion display at 120Hz. If you want to see the gaming difference between the iPhone 12 Pro all the way to the 14 Pro Max, then do leave a comment down below. now we're moving on to another popular game, Call of Duty Mobile. So as you can see, the iPhone 14 Pro Max and 14 Pro slightly edges the 12 Pro and 13 Pro, but as the game starts to load and is downloading all of the components, you will start to notice a delay in the auto generation. Now these are connected all to my Wi-Fi network, so I'm not using 4G or 5G, and as you can see, the iPhone 14 Pros start to edge closer by a significant margin. So the iPhone 14 Pro Max has loaded. It takes a while for the iPhone 14 Pro to follow on, and then a few seconds later we can see the iPhone 13 Pro load up the game, followed by the iPhone 12 Pro, which also took a few seconds after the 13 Pro. So from this we can see that the iPhone 14 Pro Max clearly wins. It seems to be the much better device to load up your Call of Duty Mobile session. In the next batch of tests, the first game to load up is FIFA Mobile. Once we load it up, you can see they're pretty much on par with each other, and you can't really tell the iPhone 12 Pro being 2 generations older than the iPhone 14s. This can also be said for Asphalt Legends. You load it up and it pretty much loads at the same time, along with other games such as 8 Ball Pool, Candy Crush and Jetpack Joyride. The same is also applied for media consumption, but on the iPhone 14 Pros, you'll realize that scrolling is much smoother because of the Pro Motion display. Disney Plus opens up at exactly the same time, along with other streaming apps such as Amazon Prime Video, Netflix and Hotstar. Now, although you have probably consumed this video in less than 9 minutes, this whole video took my brother and I close to 2.5 hours to make. So after that time period of testing, the iPhone 12 Pro battery was at 53%, the iPhone 13 Pro had a battery percentage of 63% remaining, iPhone 14 Pro has 69% remaining, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max has 68% remaining. So the 12 Pro lost 42% of battery, the 13 Pro lost 32%, the 14 Pro lost 26%, and the 14 Pro Max lost 27%. Now in terms of the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, I know there was a slight difference when I first started the test, because I believe the iPhone 14 Pro did lose 1% of battery whilst we was testing. So those two are very similar, even though the iPhone 14 Pro Max has the bigger battery. Now in conclusion, although the iPhone 14 are a beautiful piece of kit, they take great pictures, they are extremely fast, but if you're doing daily repetitive tasks such as going through Instagram feeds, looking at YouTube videos, playing the occasional game and sometimes playing games such as Genshin Impact or Call of Duty Mobile, I wouldn't quite recommend upgrading to the 14 Pro Max yet, unless you want to take those fantastic pictures for Instagram. But guys, do consider, we're in tough times at the moment, maybe consider a 3-year life cycle or even a 4-year life cycle, because even till this date the iPhone 12 Pro does a pretty good job. Alright guys, if you made it all the way to the end, then thank you very much for watching. Do consider pressing that like button, hit subscribe if you want more tech content, unboxing and reviews, and as always, stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.